that I have found prong collars to be an extremely clear and concise way to be able to communicate with your dog. First and foremost, you will hear me talk about these tools, these training tools, as communication devices. And prong collars are extremely effective at teaching our dogs about directional leash pressure. So this is going to enable us to teach our dog to speak very clearly to our dog and help them learn verbal commands, obedience positions, all of that good stuff. And it's also a really awesome tool to be able to get their attention in even highly distracting environment. Your prong collar is going to actually enhance what you do with the leash. So the cool thing about that is that we can use very little leash pressure. We can use the slightest movements to be able to speak very clearly with our dogs. And those leash skills are going to be invaluable in strengthening your relationship with your dog. The three sizes that I'll use are the micro, itty bitty bitty, little dainty piece of jewelry there, the 2.25 or the 3.0. Typically I'll start with the 2.25 and I'll just add links if I have a dog with a larger neck. But what's going to determine changing that, aside from the itty bitties with the micro, is the dog's sensitivity. So the 2.25 has a bit more of a pinchy action to it. The 3.0 is a little bit more gentler. It has less surface area, and the pinchy action is not as intense as the 2.25. Having said that, I do start everybody off with the 2.25, and again, depending on how sensitive the dog is, I might adjust from there. Hermspringer has always been my go-to brand. I'm going to talk about a couple of others out there that are really good. I'd rather you invest in one of these three that I'm going to talk about than get a prong collar that is not going to function like it is supposed to. So as I said, Hermspringer is my go-to brand. I get mine from a company called Paulmark, and I will link them below. I have them add this quick release side buckle, and it's just for our convenience. That way it's much easier for us to get on and off. Hermspringer has come out with, and it's been out for a couple of years, but they have come out with their own version of quick release. I've had a couple of clients that have had their own, and they work really, really well. The other two brands that I will get, one is Learberg. I don't have any of those with me. The third one is Kimberland. So Kimberland is where I will get my micro prongs from. They also have their own version of a quick release, making it much easier to put on your dog. But those are the three brands that make really good quality prong collars, and they are going to function as they should. So your prongs are attached by a chain with two rings on them. This is the one that I call the dead ring, and it serves as a stopper. So once we fit this properly on your dog, this collar is only going to cinch fit so far and not choke your dog. This ring right here is the live ring. This is the ring that you are going to attach your leash to. And when you pull on the chain, and you can see it much better, and you can see the action much better when we have it on the dog, but when you pull the chain, it is going to provide even pressure all the way around the neck, and that is why you get really effective teaching and being able to give your dog very little pressure to give them clear communication. And you will hear me say this multiple times. I said it at the beginning, but what you do on the leash is enhanced by the prong collar. So we always want to make sure that we are being fair. But again, the really cool thing about it is that we can use very light leash pressure to give very clear communication to our dog. To communicate most effectively with our dog, we want the prong collar to be fit on the snug side and high up on their neck behind their ears. I like this placement because this is where it enables us to have the most control over our dog's head. In the long run, we may adjust that, again, depending on how sensitive your dog is. And if you find that your dog has an odd neck and it keeps slipping down, as long as it's working properly, it's not that big of a deal. But I always try to get the best as snug, high fit as possible, and that's where you're going to get the best communication with your dog. To do that, you're going to want to either add or remove links. Like I said, I prefer the 2.25 for most dogs, so what that means for me is I will be adding a bunch of links for dogs with bigger necks. A pro tip here is if you have a dog that you need to add those links and you're going to use the 2.25, it is more budget friendly typically to just purchase a second collar without the quick release, and that way you get more links for a better price. To remove links, what you're going to do is and hopefully you can see this okay, you can either just manhandle them apart. What I like to do is just push up, because they are all individual, push up on one of the prongs from the bottom, squeeze the humps, and pull it out. Okay, so we're going to remove a link here, push up, squeeze the humps, pull it out. If we're going to put the collar back together, if you try to just kind of put that on there, it doesn't align properly. So we're going to squeeze the humps, align it over the holes, and then put it back together. Okay, same way, that's the same way that you add a link. And if you purchase a prong collar that does not have a quick release, that's how you're going to get your dog dressed every single time, by opening up the collar and then squeezing the humps, aligning the prongs, and putting it back together. Y'all, anything can happen. Tools fail. We fail, whether it is a fault in the tool itself or we fail to connect it properly, anything can happen. A backup is a safety mechanism that I like to use to ensure that I'm still connected to a dog if things go sideways. I strongly encourage you to use some sort of a backup to make sure that in the event things go sideways, you are still attached to your dog and they don't end up scampering naked down the street. You can get creative with this, but the two ways that I've often used a backup are to either attach it to my leash and then to their regular collar. Sometimes I'll use a slip-like collar if their regular flat buckle collar is a little loose like his, or I will attach it directly from the dead ring on the prong collar to their regular collar.